So what I think is, among many things that's interesting, but just kind of going back to the problem statement, which is why are people not as intentional as they could be or should be with their own careers? And oftentimes it's basically a pinball strategy of I react to the last thing that hit me, and that
Exactly.
could be
Yeah.
Julie called me up and she said I'd be a great fit for this. So I went and did that. Right. And then
Yes.
Julie left and went to another company. She called me up and said, hey, come join me over here. We're building a team.
Yep.
I go,
Yep.
okay. And it's just like I said, it's like a pinball machine. I'm the
Yep.
ball and
Yep.
other people are the paddles hitting me around the workplace. And I just sort of go to wherever I go. But as you say, you would never just blindly throw your savings into things. And well, I don't know. I'm just waiting for somebody to call me and tell me what to invest in.
Right.
Where are you going on vacation? I don't know. I'm waiting for somebody to call me and tell me where I should go. But
As human beings, we're not very good at self-analysis. We tend to downplay what we're good at. We tend to downplay our marketability. We tend to lock ourselves into, well, I'm an accountant. So I always use this very simple example. Let's say you're an accountant and you work in a traditional accounting firm, but you love the arts and you spend your weekend going to museums and you actually paint on the side. Sometimes it's as simple as a little pivot that can skyrocket your career happiness. So let's say you explore art organizations need accountants. So let's say that you explore taking your accounting skills to an organization in which you will have closer proximity to art. How would that bring the sectors of your life together in a way that is meaningful for you? And I think sometimes people don't think in terms of turning that knob slightly. Instead, all they think is, and pet peeve alert here, when someone old enough to know better says, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So we really are asking, and I just want to say, you're grown up, sister. Come on. And so it's we ask ourselves, the questions we ask ourselves are so big that we don't even begin to know how to answer them. And so we say, well, I can't. I've had people say to me, well, here's what I'd love to do, but I can't do that. And I'll go, why not? Well, and I'll go, well, why don't we rephrase that into, I can't do that right now. Maybe it's because you still have kids at home and you can't take that risk. What if you can't do it right now? Or so I can't do that. And I'll say, well, has anybody ever done that? Well, yeah. Well, then why can't you? And so we are managing between your ears, which is one of the 7 mistakes. Failing to manage between your ears is one of the 7 mistakes of job search in my book, Stop Peeing on Your Shoes. But it's failing to see your possibilities, failing to take into account how other people see you, and being open to some healthy level of risk, that to know that you have to make some calculated moves. But like you said, just bouncing around is and I talk to people like that sometimes. I'm like, wow, it's literally they are going with somebody else's assessment, as you said, of them versus what they really want. So we were never taught to get clear. Think about it. When you and I came into the job market, we were still very much entrenched in career planning was getting a job with the best company you could and hanging on for dear life for 40 years. That was a career plan. And so we're not that far away from that. And we're just coming into this, and Gen Z's kicking our butts to get there. We're just coming into that. No, I deserve to be happy at work. I deserve to like what I do. But there's a huge gap between believing that and understanding how to get from where you are now to there. And that's what this program is designed to do, is help you get super self-aware, help you think 360 about yourself and your life, and then find a career that matches up with that instead of the other way around. So we really are, the sausage is being made right now in terms of how the workforce is evolving. And I think it's exciting. I think it's scary for a lot of people. But if you're a person who loves possibilities and loves to stretch yourself and isn't afraid or completely risk averse, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm going to pick up on one thing that you just said, which is being risk averse. There's always risk. There's the risk of, hey, I need you to come to the conference room and the HR lady's in there and
right.
here's your severance. We've had to make a tough decision. So I'm always like, pick your poison. Like, do you want them
Exactly.
to do this, or do you want to do this? But
That's right.
right. But kind of getting two things. One is your happiness equation, is highly analogous to what we talk about baking a cake, which is, what are you good at? What do you care about? How can you support yourself? And then you add an extra layer, which I think is very helpful, which is, and what's the environment look like?
Right.
That's going to allow me
So
to
yeah, our career happiness formula. What are you good at? What do you like to do? You can be good at something and not like it, and vice versa. What can you get paid to do? And the components of that are, what's the market paying for what you do? That has to work for your life. And then what do you need for your life? And the fourth is culture, doing it in a place, in a way you can be successful. And the trick is, you've got to balance all four of those things at the same time. I mean, a four-legged stool, if you've got it going on and one of those legs gets kicked out from under you, you will fall over. And so it's a constant monitoring that you have to go through. And I start with that premise in this course. So it's really, you walk through the 7 steps based on the career happiness formula, so that you have the ability to make good decisions for yourself instead of outsourcing it. I mean, Bob, this will absolutely resonate with you. I've talked to job seekers. I remember this one guy I talked to, and he said, well, I'm networking. I'm not getting anywhere. We all know that networking is still the number one way to get a job. I've networked with 120 people. And I said, well, tell me what you're looking to do. And he couldn't. I'm like, wow. So you have wasted not only your time.
I call that net wasting. I call that you're not networking, you're net wasting. But yes.
I love that. Absolutely. Yes. You can't outsource it. You can, once you have some clarity about what you'd like to do more of, less of, never again, you can reach out to key people in your network to have them help you maybe connect some dots on how what might that look like in your organization. But I don't know what I want to do, what do you think I ought to do, is so unattractive. And I try to tell people that, and they get all offended. I'm like, it's just like, tell me about yourself. You have to be able to answer that question in a way that inspires action.
You talked about the Bengals a minute ago, or at the beginning. And oftentimes we will talk about Super Bowl ads. And so, why do you buy a Super Bowl ad? Because everybody's watching. So I'm in front of millions and millions and billions of people with my ad. I'm networking like crazy, Julie. I'm like, I've met 120 people. Yeah, but your ad's terrible. Like,
yeah, right.
I don't know what do you like? I don't know. That's a great question. Well, if you don't know, how am I supposed to know? And I for sure can't help you. But let's start to tie this to the 7 steps. It's on your website, so I don't think you're giving away anything here.
No, I'm not. Absolutely not.
But the step 1 is around self-awareness and self-knowledge, which again I think is by itself huge. Because most of us suck at that, and like that's first base. But do you mind kind of just walking folks through kind of what the basic framework is?
We're so afraid to say what we're good at. And we're so afraid to...
I'm bragging.
And acknowledge
I don't want to be braggadocious. That's like obnoxious. It doesn't feel like me.
Yeah. It's funny because when especially younger people, you'll say, they're so afraid. They want you to believe they can do everything. And of course you can't. And some of that knowledge, that self-knowledge, comes with experience of sucking at something, frankly. And we learn that way. But self-knowledge and awareness, I'm really good at this. But there's something so uncomfortable with saying I'm good at. So when sometimes I'll speak to groups, do keynotes and things like that, and I'll say, so put up your hand, tell me something you're good at. And people look at each other like, hey, I'm not doing that. And I'll say, I'll start. I'm a good parallel parker. Like, how about that? Let's start with something really simple, and then let's move up to, if you want to hire somebody who's really good at this, I feel like I'm as good as anybody. But there's a balance there between saying, here's what I'm really good at, here's what I want you to hire me to do. But if you want to hire me to do these things, you're probably better off looking someplace else. We're so afraid to say that. But I'm telling you, once you can get good at that, you will sit up straighter. You will have more powerful conversations. So we walk you through that process. The second step is reputation management. I mean, I could say I'm a great parallel parker, but if you've been with me and every time I try to parallel park, I hit the car in front of me, I play bumper cars with the ones in front of me behind me, I'm not good at it. If I said to you, I'm a great singer, that is not true. So don't, so it's what we think of ourselves, but it also matters what other people think of us. And we all know those people who 100 people could tell that you're not good at detail management, and then dig in and say, yes, I am. So you have to be realistic. Nobody's good at everything. And so tying together, here's what I think of myself, here's what I like to do, here's what others think of me, are the first two steps. The third is, does what you're good at and what you want to do and how people see you, does that align with what your organization needs or what your profession needs or what your industry needs? So if you're over here saying, I'm so good at this, but your organization is moving this way, you're here and the organization's moving this way, it may not be a long-term fit for you. And it's better to know that now. The fourth is alignment of your personal and professional lives. Can you have the life you want in the company, job, profession, industry you're in? So let's say you've just had twins and you used to travel 70 to 80% of the time. There's a misalignment there. It doesn't mean you can't come back to it someday. So if we think of our career in chapters, I think that's healthier. So for right now, I'm not able to travel 70%, or my parents are aging and I'm an only child. There's certain things I can't do. I want to coach my kid's soccer team. So how does where the organization is going and what the organization requires align with your personal life? I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, they interviewed with a company who's like, we expect 24/7. We expect you to answer the phone at midnight if we need you. And the person was like, yeah, nope. So they walked away. You have to have the courage to walk away if the sectors of your life can't align. And this is true now. It wasn't true 30 years ago, because there is no line between work and home anymore. Technology has made sure of that. I mean, back in the day, if your boss wanted to get a hold of you, they had to get out the white pages and look up your phone number, your home phone number, right?
Where are the white pages?
Yeah, exactly. Gen Z's like, what's that? Those big phone books they keep putting at our front doors that we throw away. Yeah, that's what it is. And so you have to have the courage to say, here's what's important to me. That's number 4. Number 5 is, based on all of that, what career goals can you set for yourself, or even role goals, goals inside the role you're in? How can you set some achievable career goals? The word career goals makes the phrase career goals makes people go, blah, because it's just so big, but so they think, I've talked to people before and they'll say, well, and I say, here's the deal. Your career goal doesn't have to be end world hunger, or it doesn't have to be, I'm going to own 12 companies. It can literally be, I want to learn more about this, about AI and how AI is going to affect my profession. That's a goal. And so we kind of break it down into pieces that we can navigate. Number 6 is, yes, network building and management. I have a whole thing on network building and how you build your network in a way that doesn't feel like small talk. So my definition of networking is the building of mutually beneficial relationships that support your goals. And so that doesn't mean, so being out here in Scottsdale for the winter, I go to chamber events, women's chamber events every month. My goal every time is to make one good contact. I have done it every month, but just one, that's enough. Now I have 4 new good contacts. My goal is to not be everybody's BFF who showed up that day. It's how do you make connections based on how do you make mutually beneficial connections? And there's the give and the take. And so you have to build and manage those relationships, because that is still how stuff gets done, through people to people. And then the 7th is intentional career conversations. Now that you have all this set, who do you need to talk to? Do you take your career plan that you've developed in to talk to your boss? Do you take it to inform your search? So now you can begin a job search based on what you know about yourself. So it's really the foundational piece of career management, regardless of where you are in your career or what you do. I would use this process with anybody in any profession. It's just now what we're seeing is Gen Z, they'll quit, they'll bounce, baby. I've talked to some Gen Z people and they're like, I think I'm going to quit. I'm like, why? I don't know. I just don't see, I don't know. They, they don't have, and so I was couldn't figure it out. I'm like, no, 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 no. And I know companies are getting frustrated with that too. What if you gave your Gen Z, what if you gave all your employees the ability to develop the self-awareness to figure out where they fit and to build a path for themselves? And then your role is simply to facilitate. And that's what this is designed to do. So retention and engagement is such a key piece of what companies are looking to do right now, that throwing more money, and there's just so much, oh my God, so much around wages that's going on. People's expectation of wages are coming up. I truly believe that if you pay people fairly, but you give them some of this other stuff also, they will stay. Nobody wants it to be all about money. And so stop pretending it is. Start to listen to your people and give them tools and frameworks with which to be successful in your organization. Oh, and if along the way they realize they can't be successful in your organization, you're better off them leaving now than being disengaged and sitting around, playing on TikTok for 2 years. And so it's really about getting the right people, making sure you got the right people on the bus, and making sure everybody's going the same direction. When people don't know how to articulate what they want, it becomes about money. But as we know, and we've said 1,000 times, money's not what makes you happy.
Yeah, it's funny because when you get a raise, the high lasts for maybe 1 or 2 pay cycles.
Yeah.
And then you're like over it. It's like, well, that's what I should have been making all along anyway. Hey, I'm still not happy with this.
Right.
But the buzz is over.
That's why this stat that like when people quit a job and then accept a counteroffer to stay, they end up leaving within a year, like 90% of the time. It's because the thing that caused them to leave probably wasn't money. There were probably other things as well. I talked to this woman, she had quit her job, gone to a new company, and the company she left was like full court press to get her back. And she called me and I said, why did you leave in the first place? And she told me the reason. Has that changed? No. I'm like, well, duh. Why would you go back then? Yeah. So we get this rear view mirror that's all foggy and gauzy and maybe it wasn't that bad. Well, yeah. And then you go back and go, oh yeah, it was that bad. So you've got to start to make smart decisions based on a process to help guide your career.
Well, what I love about this, Julie, is the last word you just said. It's a process. And so much of whether it's just job search that is complete chaos, or again, this random career pathing that other people are the ones who are, shuttling me to where I'm going next, but creating a process and having the ability to slow down, follow a framework, get it sequentially right. So to your earlier point, I could be networking. Hey, I've got that networking bullet there that you said I should be doing. Yeah, but you didn't go through the first step of self-knowledge and awareness. Like you're kind of got it mismatched. You've got the part in front of the horse.
Our process is think, plan, execute. So
say that again.
Think, plan, execute. Yeah. Super simple. It applies to all areas of life, but most job seekers jump straight into execute. And that's why I called my book, Stop Peeing on Your Shoes, because that's what they do. And then, then they got to go back and clean it up. And then they settle on anybody that'll have them. And then they wonder why they're not happy.
So this might be an unfair question. So if it is, just say so. But is there 1 or 2 of these steps that either are like more important or more foundational, or you see people tripping on more than others?
Yeah. I would say that number 1, the self-knowledge and awareness is absolutely critical. And it's the one that people trip on because we're so not comfortable with it. And so we hurry through that part of it. People will hurry through the questions in my $97 program. I know myself, that's why it's the same reason why people trip over, tell me about yourself, because they're like, well, it's about me. Who knows me better than me? No, I'm not going to trip on that. And then they just throw up all over the place on it. Yeah. So the self-knowledge and awareness is probably the one that will trip you up. And it's the one you need to focus, you need to put the most focus on. I would also say network building and management. I would say the same thing. It's really important. People hate it, and so they gloss over it, but it is the lifeblood of your career.
Yeah.
All those other pieces, if you force me to pick 2 out of those 7, I'd say those are foundational. The rest of it really go around that.
Yeah, no, I would, I'm encouraged to hear you say that, because that's probably what I would have picked. You have to know your message, your convictions first. What is true for you? And I can't tell you what's true for you. You have to go through, as you say, some of the hard work of figuring out what's true for you,
Right.
and being able to put words around that, because we often stink at articulating these things. So what's true for me? How do I communicate that clearly and cogently to somebody else?
Right.
And then to your earlier point, people hire people,
Yeah.
right? ATSs don't hire people.
Nope.
People hire people, and people that I connect with and that I like and that I think, I can trust, and all these other things. And yet, if we're kind of afraid of doing that, either because, again, I'm an introvert, I'm shy, or I'm just so busy working at big company, dawn to dusk. And I've been here for 27 years. The only people I know are the people who work at big company. And then that something happens and I don't have a network. And I liken that to going to the ATM that you never made deposits into.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I need $1,000 like crazy right this second. It's like, well, dude, you never made any deposits. You can't make withdrawals from a thing you never made deposits into.
That's right. And, and it's this whole idea. You mentioned the 26-year employee. Oh, where's corporate loyalty? Dude, it never existed. Come on. Companies kept you on because they kept everybody on. But the minute they decided they could live without you, they did. So why are we expecting a nameless, faceless corporation to be loyal to you and your family? Your loyalty should be to yourself first. You want to operate with integrity, but your loyalty should be to yourself and your career and your family first. And if your company is a great place for you to reach your goals, wonderful. If it isn't, you need to have the courage to move on.
Yeah, I want to pick up on another theme that you've talked about in this, and it's sort of this alignment of personal and professional lives. If I've never made the introduction to you before, I will afterwards, but we work with True North and a gentleman named Dr. Andy Garrett, and he taught me this a year ago or so, but this notion of work-life balance versus work-life integration.
Yeah.
Work-life balance implies that they're out of like you're just trying to minimize the conflict.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what that basically says, versus you're in your flow state when these things are working together and 1 + 1 is 3. And I'm not fighting, I want to be coaching soccer, but I also want to be the divisional manager. Well, you're always going to be in conflict because those aren't consistent goals that you've got. So how do you work at a place in a role that you're happy at that also allows you to be aligned to your personal life?
If I could take my career happiness formula and tattoo it on everybody, or at least make it a thing that you put on your computer, and you ask yourself that question every day. Is this career, this job, serving the life I want? Is it allowing me to build the life I want? Where am I out of balance? How do I, in the old days, you could go to work, leave in the morning at 7:30 with your coffee, go in the office, leave and come home at 5:30. And if you hated what you did, if you felt like you were putting on a mask and you were having to play a role from 8 to 5, at least when you came home, you might not have been the most pleasant person to be around on the weekends or after 5, but you could literally walk in the door and that was it. You could engage, watch TV, hang with your kids, do whatever you wanted to do, but we have lost those boundaries. And so it is even more imperative that
right.
And so I think about I always liken it to, if you're wearing shoes that are too small, to being like in the wrong job, let's say the shoes you're wearing are half a size too small. Eventually, not only are you going to have foot problems, you're going to have ankle problems, knee problems, hip problems, and you're probably just going to be unpleasant to be around. It's the same thing with being in a job that doesn't fit. And so constantly asking yourself, does it serve me to still stay here? And stop telling yourself lies about yourself. I had a 33-year-old say to me once he was too old to change careers. And I think I laughed at him, frankly, like out loud. But 55, you can still do other things when you're 55 and 60. So you've got to break some of those tapes you have running in your head about what's possible for you. And if you start to I always say, if on Sunday night you're like, oh God, please let me have strep throat so I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I feel sick. I hope I get sick so I don't have to go to work. Really? You start crying in the car on the way to work. Look for some of those things. Listen to the people around you who love you, your spouses, your friends. If all you do is show up and complain about your job, nobody wants to be around you. I mean, I purposely stay away from people like that because, so what I do, I'm like, why don't you make a change then? Well, and they got 12 excuses. I'm like, don't even, if you cared that much, you would change. And more is possible for you in your life than you believe it is. I am absolutely convinced of that. I know that. And I've never met anybody for whom that wasn't true. And so I know it's true for your listeners / watchers as well. But yeah, you deserve to have a job that you don't spend most of your time thinking about when you get your next 3-day weekend or your next vacation.
Yeah. So this is what I love about you, Julie, because the medicine is strong. But there's enough sugar in it with your humor and your sweet but you're direct. And I really appreciate the directness because we only have one time around the track. And it's like, my next career, I'm going to be happy. Really? Like, how does that work?
Right.
And But what's different about this, it's one thing to call all these things out. And you and I can intellectually agree that they're true. We've talked to enough people, we know they're true. But what I love about what you've done is given people a map of how to get from here to there. I want to go back to something you were saying earlier, which I think is all kind of wrapped up in the word career, because careers are 40 years or longer, right? As retirement ages get pushed back or life expectancy, the whole thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, career. Like I just can't even get that, my mind wrapped around it. And your notion of, so let's do this in chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break this down into more. I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years.
Right.
But we can plan for this year, next. Let's at least have a plan that we're working on that we can pivot from. But to have no plan is to have no autonomy. And it's this lack of autonomy that actually ends up creating so much unhappiness because they don't feel like they have any agency in their life.
Right.
It's happening.
Right.
My thing is called making your own weather. And that's sort of the notion behind it too, is like, don't complain that it's rainy and cloudy. There are things that you can control that you're not acknowledging that you can control. And again, what I love about what you've built here is a map that's very doable. You don't have to swallow the whole elephant in one bite. You just need to be intentional about doing the work. If the benefits of having say it one more time for me, a career that what's your life or a job that what's your life?
We all deserve to have a career that serves your life.
There you go. So if you want a career that serves your life, there's a little bit of work that you have to do, maybe a lot of bit of work that you have to do. But every day from that point forward is going to be so much more worthwhile.
And once you have it, you will become determined not to live without it ever again. And that's what I love about it. It's just, once I got to the point where I was directing my day, I didn't feel like work. There was very little that I was avoiding. And I felt like I was in flow. As Gay Hendricks wrote a book about, I forget what it's called, but it's about being in your zone of genius.
Mhm.
And it's so good. And we have a zone of excellence, but we also have that zone of genius, which is nobody can keep up with us. You are as good as anybody. And I try as much as I can to live in my zone of genius. And that's where it's like, I don't sit and count the days till the weekends because
Right.
I love what I do so much. I don't have any hobbies or interests that actually supersede that. And maybe that'll cause me a problem someday. But for now, I'm spending my time exactly how I want to spend it.
Well, and so that's probably the perfect place to put a bow on this, because that's the goal for everybody.
Yeah,
Is
it
so
is.
that
And you can
nothing
have it, but you have to take action. As I always say, the career fairy isn't coming. I wish I could create that. If I did, I'd have my own private island. And we'd be doing I'd invite you to my island, Bob, and we'd do the podcast from there. But that's not a thing. And so, have some courage, believe that you deserve it, because I don't even know you and I know you deserve it.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you for doing it.
You're welcome.
You've put 30 years and then another 6 months on top of that, and paid somebody to help you do it, to get all this in a very consumable and affordable package.
Yes.
Whether it is for individuals, and then again, I think I don't want to skip past this, organizations that want to attract and retain
Yes.
people who are fulfilled in their role and not looking to leave you because whatever it is they think they're looking for and defaulting to money, they're not finding.
Yeah.
Well, how do we keep those folks?
How do we keep those folks? And how do we not say, hang in there, Bubba? How do we give them tools? So yeah, whether you are an organization or a professional association that wants to add value to your members, let's talk. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or via our website, but LinkedIn is probably the best.
Yeah,
you can find out more about the program. Front page of our website, it's right there, and you can get started on your journey to career happiness today.
Awesome. Let's flash up the website here in a second so that people can go to that as well. And then you said, Julie, people are welcome to connect with you on LinkedIn also.
Yep. Just say I heard you on Bob's podcast. I put a lot of stuff on there. I think LinkedIn is it's going to rule the world someday.
It feels like it anyway.
Yeah.
So, Julie, this has been so much fun. I knew that I would learn some cool stuff. I just am such a fan. I appreciate the energy, enthusiasm, the creativity, but also the practicality and the hope that you're giving people so that they can have that job that helps them live the life that they really want to live. So,
and right back at you. Career Club is amazing. And I love what you're doing with Career Club. I think it's such a valuable resource. And next placement, because outplacement was so outdated. So, kudos right back to you, because I love what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening. And if you want to connect with Career Club on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. But in the meantime, hope you have a great rest of your week. And again, Julie Bauke, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I know you're gonna find it. You've got all you need. So just keep